Jacky Wolf is doing a political video, and yeah, you should put a fucking bullet in my head or something, because, oh god, no, please. This is terrible. I've become a political YouTuber. Anyways, ex-Democrat walkaway member describes BLM confrontation. They chased us down the street. Rally-goers at a walkaway campaign in Dallas, Texas on Saturday were confronted and chased by Black Lives Matter protesters for simply being in disagreement. Walkaway member Carlin Boriocinco told Fox and Friends Weekend. Now, we have to go into what the walkaway campaign is. The walkaway campaign is something kind of interesting to me. It is a bunch of people who used to be Democrats who believe that the Democratic Party has completely left them or never was really what they believed it to be in some cases. And before somebody, well, that means they're going to be Republican. No, a lot of times they may be going to a different party. They may be going to a third party. They may be disaffected and go completely independent. I mean, this is an interesting phenomenon to me because it's in mass. And you'll figure that out later on in the video. And Brasico said that she and other participants had made it to the local police station after one of their security guards and a BLM protester had been arrested for getting into an altercation. Fancy way of saying fight, right? Once Brasico and her party stepped out of their car, she said protesters almost immediately surrounded and began to chase them. Closing that tab real quick. Yeah, that seems to be a thing with BLM protesters when they think they can run you down. And they were probably extremely mad that you were moving from a crowd or group that they could control with their extremist views into a more diverse group. We'll say it like that. You have confronted them by being walk away. To them, you're walking away from their movement, their voice. And I can say that because I actually kind of understand that a little bit. We didn't even say anything to them. She said, we were minding our own business and they immediately started screaming at us, throwing things at us, then chased us down the street where there was a group of cops that we were trying to get to protect us. And I've actually heard that a lot, where the people that were getting chased try to get cops to protect them. Although in a lot of cases, the cops will just move. Up until recently, that was a thing in Portland. I mean, a lot of cases I've heard that, and the cops just do nothing because if they do something, they risk getting in a shit ton of trouble. The altercation turned physical. The protesters began throwing bottles and street cones at rally members. One member had his phone stolen and smashed, which that is illegal in most states, if not all of them. We committed the crime of standing on the streets, she said. If it could happen to us, it could literally happen to anyone. They don't know who we are from anyone else, and they just know that they seen us probably at a rally earlier that day, and they knew that we disagreed with them, and that was the only crime we committed. Bersenko, if you happen to see the small-time YouTubers take on this story, anybody that is right of these people is a fascist. And by you stepping away from the Democratic Party, even though you may still be in the left, you're no longer with them. Especially if you're one of the ones walking away that may vote for Trump, in which case you're terrible. Bersenko joined the walkaway campaign, the movement for Democrats to drop radical leftism, and left the Democratic Party after attending a Trump rally, which she said made her realize that the media had been absolutely lying to her about Trump supporters. Yeah, the media actually paints Trump supporters in a very bad light. in extremely bad light and has been doing for a while. And I still really don't know why, because Trump is basically what a moderate Democrat would have been in the 1990s and 2000s. Is interesting. This radicalization's actually only been a massively recent thing. Um, I was a Democrat from 20 years from the time I was 18 years old. That means you're a freaking 38-year-old woman. She said, I realized Trump supporters were not deplorable people, and I take a whole new look at everything. I ended up leaving the Democratic Party and was attacked and harassed by the left for weeks and weeks and weeks until I finally said enough's enough, and I started getting involved with walkaway events and sharing my story that's not what the media made it out to be. Well, see, that's the thing, though, is ultimately you started talking to the wrong people, the deplorable people that they would rather you not talk to. You went to a Trump rally, which is something that BLM says automatically makes you a fascist. And by no means do I agree with this. At all. At all, in fact. I find it deplorable and horrible, horrible thing. Terrible thing. Well, damn. So, I don't know how to follow up the previous part of this video. Really, other than, well, hi, I'm Jacky. I used to be considered a leftist, and oftentimes supported democratic causes. In fact, I, believe it or not, I was one of those Dems that didn't vote because he didn't see a point in voting under Obama. I was a borderline communist at one point, and that was how I was programmed. But under Obama, under that administration, is when things started to change. See, I lived under George Bush, and that's when I think I became solidified in my programming that I only listened to the echo chamber. I only listened to certain people and certain sources. In fact, that being said, that's the basis of what most of us go through in that particular situation. I know it's a bit depressing for some of you to hear, and quite honestly, it's really kind of depressing to go through again. But I wanted to share this because this is important to me and to everybody that needs to understand this. But during the first Obama government, I would have been considered a communist going into that. During that time, things really changed for me. Like, a lot of things really changed. We got a lot of people don't know this, but I got my first job out of high school. I worked under the table a lot while I was in high school. Went to college. Was excelling and was being mentally warped because naive country boy in college meant that I was already pseudo-indoctrinated by high school, but it was becoming more and more radicalized. Groups of people I hung out with, stuff like that. And there was this economics teacher that used to kind of poke fun at me because he says, for somebody that was as smart as I am, I sure am a dumbass. And I would love to thank that guy, but I for the life of me, I cannot remember his name. And as time went on, under the Obama administration, I lost a really well-paying job because he got elected while I was working there, and his changes to the healthcare system made it to where they had to let go of something like half of the staff in order to afford to pay healthcare that was actually worse than the healthcare that they had been providing. I did not know that at the time. I actually just thought, well, this is just a failure of the capitalist system. And I kind of drifted around trying to find a job, but I had a really hard time finding a job. Not to mention, I was angry and bitter. There's a lot of hatred, a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness. There's still some issues there today. Don't get me wrong, I've always had anger issues, but I was very angry and bitter at the world. I believe the world was at fault for my situation, for where I was. And I floated around a lot, going from job to job, temporary work, contract work, whatever could float, you know. I even taught myself skills doing this. One day, I went back to college. Didn't have a job, but I was offered a go back to college, but on one condition: I had to start attending a church. And I took this opportunity because I was like, your church is never going to prove anything to me. Well, I was wrong. It actually gave me some compassion towards people. It actually started helping me understand that government doesn't replace God, and culture does not replace religion. That at the end of the day, the faith of religion is something that keeps us in check. But Jacky, you're the... Yeah, I know I'm bisexual. And that's between me and the man upstairs. I don't push my religion on people because I don't want that to be a thing. But yeah, this is 2011. I want to say this was, this would be Obama's second term, and in that particular election, I didn't vote, but I was heavily disaffected by all political parties at that point in time. I turned on the news, I was disgusted, full of anger. 2011, and it's a couple months after the tornadoes ripped through the southeast in 2011. We're going, my first day of school, my first day back at college. I'm walking into the Student Union Center, which is where the campus Christian Ministries was, where the religious room was. Also, the student lounge and stuff like that. And there's this weird dude in a pair of trip pants, a Hawaiian shirt, wearing a hat. I don't remember what hat. I want to say it was a fedora. He walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, you know anything about computers?" It's like, yeah, I was a Linux dev for a little bit. He goes, "Cool, I know nothing about computers, but you wanna see the day that we're having?" And he introduced me to his group of friends, including his sister, and 3 vehicles. One that had a flat tire, one that had the keys locked in the trunk where the spare tire was, and one that had a Slim Jim unexpectedly shoved in the door. And I just kind of laughed at this guy, and he goes, "Yeah." I mean, he just kind of smiled, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I mean..." So we started talking and shit, and we became really close friends. Like, we were inseparable for several years after that. And a lot of what he told me, like, a lot of what I learned from this particular person was what affected me to change more and more. Because somebody could punch this guy in the face, break his teeth, and he would still give them a hug. Yeah, he'd be mad at them, but he would still give them a hug. And that was something that amazed me. And he's not a conservative himself. He's not what you would call a stereotypical Republican. So going into my time knowing him, the last election, I was still working at the job he helped me land, which was it wasn't a bad job. It was just not paying the bills. I worked in a restaurant as a cook for a very long time. It just wasn't paying the bills, and I was trying to use YouTube to supplement it, but my quality on YouTube wasn't very good because it kept dropping because, well, my heart wasn't in it if I was doing it for work-related issues, really. It's one of those things, like, when I started YouTube, you can tell, like, there was a lot of effort and try I put in it, and towards the end, I was just, because the crowd of people I was around, like, just made me sick. The people I played games with, like, anytime something political came up, they always hard left everything instead of keeping an open mind. So I kind of started falling back into that groove, and then I got this opportunity to work in a factory, which this factory is very demanding. Don't worry, I get a shit ton of overtime. So I kind of bounced at it, and I took the opportunity. And I mean, this is a year after Donald Trump was elected, and that election, I voted for Gary Johnson because by that point, I was so disaffected with the Democratic Party. But I did not know anything about the Republican Party. I had only ever heard bad things about Republicans. Never heard anything good about Republicans. And so I voted for Libertarians because they seemed like, alright kind of people. And then I land this job because the economic boom that was created by the Trump election, the economic growth just in my state, which had been a very poor state. I land this job, and I'm sitting here and I'm working, and I keep working, and I keep seeing all these things where Donald Trump says he's going to do something and he does it. Now, he doesn't say it in the most polite, well-liked way, and I kind of like the showmanship and the bullheadedness, but at the same time, I don't. I guess I can overlook it because he is very much the stereotypical 80s businessman. But I can see a lot of what he's done that's good for this country. And a lot of other things that have really helped this country grow. So that was my journey walking away from where I was, from who I was as a Democrat, and my continual growth as a person, as a non-authoritarian right-winger. I'm probably going to start doing some non-gaming related stuff. I don't know if I'm going to split the channel or not. I think I'm just going to upload this in a vlog to this channel. It'll be a weekly vlog. As well as trying to keep this channel focused on gaming stuff. As I can record. But I felt like I needed to share this in the story preceding this. If you have any problems with me, you can take it down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hate, I really don't care. But I do wish that if you've listened to this all the way through, and you've heard what I've said, I really hope that you can like and share your story. I mean, that's something, like, if you're somebody like me, just share your story. Let other people know. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment, hell, share on Facebook and Twitter if you really want to. I've been Jacky Wolf. Until next time, my dudes. Later.